It's the 2021 annual Kansas African American Museum Tribute to Trailblazer Showcase, a celebration honoring Kansans who lead, innovate, and pioneer. This evening's showcase celebrates the richness of the African American experience and its indelible influence on American culture, tradition, and language that continue to define our country today. Honoring Dr. Larry Mittenall of Ascension Via Christi, Deputy Chief Wanda Givens of the Wichita Police Department, Dr. John Brooks Slaughter, former director of the National Science Foundation, Chief Judge Julie Robinson, U.S. District Courts, and Chanel Jones of The Today Show. Ladies and gentlemen, your MC for tonight's showcase, the incomparable Felicia Rolfe.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the 21st Annual Trailblazers Hall of Fame. I'm Felicia Rolfe, your MC for this year's exciting celebration. Tonight, we celebrate and showcase some of our nation's most talented professionals who have dedicated their life's work for the betterment of all. For more than 2 decades, TCAM has honored pioneers who have helped shape the American experience. This year's theme, Resilience, Respect, Resound, and The Journey Forward, truly speaks to the fortitude and resilience of our honorees and of African Americans in Kansas. It's a delight to start our program from the Kansas African American Museum, located right here in Wichita, Kansas. The museum home to African American legends such as Angela Bates of Nicodemus, Kansas, attorney Donald Hollowell for his contributions during the Civil Rights Movement, and Dr. Ronald Walters and the 1958 Dockham Drugstore sit-in participants, just to name a few. We continue our long-standing tradition of showcasing Kansans who have made great contributions to American society and are building a legacy of success for others to follow. This evening's honors will highlight a rising star who has dedicated his life's work to the betterment of our children and adolescents, as well as trailblazers whose chosen professions are in law enforcement, education and engineering, the judicial system at the highest levels, and broadcast journalism with a national platform. One common thread with all of our honorees is their personal dedication to building a core foundation centered around the sciences, technology, engineering, and math. So let's get started with a song that celebrates STEM disciplines and why it's important to embrace these fields of study. Mr. Roy Moy III presents Black Lives Made STEM History.
Black lives made STEM history. STEM history. Ooh. We call it STEM music. Yeah, yeah. Black lives made STEM history. So many inventions you can see. Black lives made STEM history. Change the world for you and me. Black lives made STEM history. So many inventions you can see. Black lives made STEM history. Change the world for you and me. First things first, gotta take it back to Africa. Swaziland, the start of mathematicas. Mathematics, what we talking about? The limbombo bone came first, no doubt. Numerical notches made a lunar calendar. Crucial history for sure. Gotta reintroduce the truth, like the text interrupt the word. 10 by 2, manuscripts for days on end. Full of knowledge, full of sin. Can't forget about the Egyptians, flexing genius with pyramids. Trigonometry and algebra, math systems they made for all of us. So keep this in mind, every time black people, they really made STEM shine. Black lives made STEM history. So many inventions you can see. Black lives made STEM history. Change the world for you and me. Black lives made STEM history. So many inventions you can see. Black lives made STEM history. Change the world for you and me. Listen up, let's take it back to America. Started as slaves, but then we really leveled up. Intelligent with inventions galore. Built a strong foundation and so much more. Science, technology, engineering, and math. Such amazing contributions as a matter of fact. It wasn't just a peanut by George Washington Carver. I'm talking hair care and science that made us smarter. Cool stuff like a super soaker water gun. Lonnie Johnson just want a kiss to have fun. We gotta talk about Dr. Patricia Bath with the laser phaco pro. She brought eyesight back. From Mae Jemison to Dr. Shirley Jackson, Garrett Morgan, Lewis Latimer, and Herman Branson. Black minds really revolutionized STEM. That's why it's so important that we gotta know them. Black lives made STEM here. history. Yeah. So many inventions that you can see. Change the world for you and me. Oh, Black Lives Matter history. Change the world. Black lives make STEM history. Black lives make STEM history. Black lives make STEM history. STEM history. STEM history.
We would like to thank Cox Business, our presenting sponsor for the evening.
Thank you, Roy, for sharing your original composition. And by the way, Roy is a former structural design engineer for Spirit Aerosystems and now serves on their talent acquisition team recruiting engineers. As a gifted singer and songwriter, he has parlayed his many talents, education, and experiences to form STEM Music, a company aiming to inspire the next generation of multicultural STEM professionals through engaging and entertaining music. Roy volunteers his time by mentoring local youth, celebrating his multicultural heritage, and ministering through music. We now invite Denise Sherman, the Executive Director for the Kansas African American Museum, to share about the early Kansas Exoduster movement.
Resilience. Kansas has a rich history of resiliency. As the United States expanded rapidly westward and the Kansas-Nebraska Act created the territories of Kansas and Nebraska, along with the right to decide whether to permit slavery when it joined the Union, Kansas bordered the slave state of Missouri, and over the next 7 years, Kansas became a battleground of the future of slavery in the United States. On January 29, 1861, Kansas was admitted to the Union as a free state. The struggle between pro- and anti-slavery forces in Kansas was a major factor in the eruption of the American Civil War of 1861 to 1865.
Thank you, Denise, for sharing our early history and the resiliency and early beginnings of African Americans in Kansas. We now invite board member Joseph Shepard to introduce this year's Doris Kerr Larkin Rising Star Award.
Greetings, I'm Joseph Shepard, Director for Lead for Kansas, and I'm proud to be a member of the Board of Directors of the Kansas African American Museum. Providing support for our community is the hallmark of servant leadership. It was Miss Doris Kerr Larkins who demonstrated this commitment by using her voice to save the historic Calvary Baptist Church and starting the first Black Historical Society of Kansas. Today, we honor others who follow in her footsteps. It is with honor to congratulate Dr. Larry Mittenall with the 2021 Doris Kerr Larkins Rising Star Award.
My name is Isaiah Mittenall, and Larry is my eldest brother. Larry was definitely the leader of the pack as the oldest of four. He was always setting the standard for our family in regards to education, in regards to just learning and growing. So he was always the leader of the pack. Growing up, our father was a pastor, so that was our life 24/7, being a part of the community and being that family that represented being an outreach for those who needed help or wanted access to a better life. He loves helping people, and he has a huge heart. He has a huge heart for people. So yeah, him going into psychiatry and even him receiving this award, it feels very in line with who he is.
I have known Dr. Mittenall for the last 4 or 5 years now, and I met him first time when he came to Wichita to interview with us, and we knew it right away that he was the right fit for us. You know, I would describe him as a gentleman and a scholar, because he is a gentleman first, and he's a scholar himself. Now, he's obviously well educated and knows his field very well. He is a good human being first.
I'm Dr. Larry Mittenall. I'm a child and adult psychiatrist with Ascension Via Christi. I grew up mostly in Texas. I'm an Army brat, so we moved around quite a bit, and then moved around the country basically for training in school after that. For undergrad, a degree in biology, and then in DC at Georgetown for a master's in science policy. and then back to Texas to do a master's in public health and medical school, and then residency at Dartmouth for child and adolescent psychiatry and adult psychiatry, so 5 years there. Psychiatry just has its own history, and like every history, it has, great moments, but it also has moments of failure. And so I think being able to, one, kind of admit that, and then take a proactive approach about how we empower these communities that just haven't had access or haven't had the history too to know of how helpful these things can be. I was recently on a panel with 3 other Black child psychiatrists. Now, to paint how rare this is, so in the U.S., I think the estimated population of Black Americans is like 40 million people, right? In the nation, there are about 4,100, psychiatrists. Of those, 82 of them are Black. So then of those 82, there's an even smaller minority that practice in the field that I practice, right? So the fact that the 4 of us could even be together having kind of an online Facebook symposium about wellness, that's actually a really big and kind of novel thing. But I think that's where it begins. It begins with us really using the tools of new media to really reach people who otherwise wouldn't. In medical school, I had decided that I loved seeing young people, and that I knew that was probably going to be my area, the place where I, really just thrived and could see myself every day just being happy because I get to be a little bit silly.
We often hear him laughing out loud in the hallways, and so that really helps, because psychiatry can be, because we see a lot of anguish, and to be able to deal with that, you need to be a pillar yourself in a way. So and he sort of exemplifies that.
So really early in my career, I had the great fortune of running into a young woman, Roz Hutchison, who works at Ascension, who does PR and just has so much energy and ideas for how do we get messages out. And so really early on, she asked, would you be interested in doing some news or television spots to answer questions about returning to school anxiety? And I said, sure, I'd love to do that. And so if I could be available for those things, then I tried to make myself available for things. And then I think with the encouragement of colleagues, Dr. Mittal being among them, they encouraged me to really think about how to do so proactively, right? So not just wait for the opportunity to arrive, but how can you start speaking into things and giving information, or at least providing to a canvas, a library of tools for families and for individuals. And so that's when I really got started being serious, maybe about a year and a half ago, really, with doing YouTube videos, talking about diagnosis and what that means and what the treatments look like and how people can access those things. That's kind of where I'm moving next and trying to reach out and help parents where they are.
Social media and the internet, there is a good side and a bad side to it, and it is up to us what we choose to see. And he's creating this another sort of content, and it's not just him. There are a lot of other physicians who are doing that, and that is creating this huge wealth of information in which, if you see one video, the next video is going to come up. And I think his reach, if I were to predict, is going to go beyond this community. It's going to go national. Yeah, I think he's going to do great things.
I think the future for Dr. Mittal is truly limitless. His mission work extends far beyond the clinical walls that he practices, and he has the ability to be the bridge for so many families and for so many medical students who want to pursue a career in psychiatry or to just build a more connected family.
I cannot think of a better person for this award, because in this pandemic, he has taken on the challenge with the grace and the grit, and imparted the knowledge to everyone. So I think he deserves every bit of it.
So I guess a little side note for Larry, he's equally as talented in being a drummer as he is a psychiatrist.
Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. 'Cause when you're feeling low,
I'd like to thank the Kansas African American Museum for the Doris Kerr Larkins Rising Star Award. It really is a great honor to receive it, and I'd also like to thank the wonderful people who have contributed to me being here, most notably my parents, Larry and Yvonne Mittenall, and my mentors along the journey, Dr. Thomas Matthews, Dr. Craig Donnelly, and Dr. Steve Cobble.
We would like to thank Ascension Via Christi as our Doris Kerr Larkins Rising Star sponsor for the evening.
Greetings. I am Ebony Clemens Ajibalade, immediate past president of our Kansas African American Museum, and I am excited about our future. I invite you to join us on this journey by supporting the museum with a family membership, becoming a monthly recurring donor, or by making a one-time gift. Your contribution or donation ensures that we're able to continue sharing stories that inform and inspire. So please visit our website and click the Donate Now button. The Kansas African American Museum. We are culture.
We would like to thank Robert Brogdon Automotive as our Hall of Fame sponsor for the evening.
Congratulations, Dr. Mittenall. Thank you for your advocacy, educating, and public speaking on behalf of children and families with behavior and mental health needs. Our first Trailblazer honoree has positively engaged the community during some of our most difficult periods. Throughout her professional career, Deputy Chief Wanda Parker Givens with the Wichita, Kansas Police Department touched many lives and created opportunities that empowered women to consider careers in law enforcement, as well as engaging minorities and community leaders to work together with law enforcement officials. Let's learn more.
My first impression of Deputy Chief Givens was, she was one of the most experienced officers on the staff, and that she had seen and been through a lot.
Well, Wanda came on the department in 1987. I was on for 6 years at that time, and we were both patrol officers. We never worked one day together in our nearly 34-year careers. But especially in 1987, there weren't very many female police officers, and so all of us knew each other. And quite honestly, if a female officer had longevity, you knew they were doing the job they were supposed to be doing, and you started to admire them and respect them, and you knew all about their career, even though you didn't make calls together, even work the same shift or the same days.
Okay, so when I hired on as a police officer. So in 1987, I actually spent 10 years in the field before I promoted. So I loved the field. I loved working with the community. I promoted to sergeant, went back out to the field as a field supervisor. And then I promoted to lieutenant. As a lieutenant, we have 3 divisions, which is support, investigations, and field services. I worked all 3 of those as a lieutenant, so 16 years as a lieutenant. That was the time that I did not promote. That was the time I thought was very crucial for my kids. I needed to be a mom.
She's a great mother. I mean, she's always there, and she's always been that way. She's been able to excel in her career and be one of those super moms.
Well, actually, I was surprised but still happy to see that she had embarked upon a career in law enforcement and that she had chosen to work third shift. And to be on third shift, it was an extremely fast pace back at that time, and she demonstrated that she was able to handle her own and keep up with the fast pace.
But I also remember the disengagement that we had with police officers. Ran from the police officers. Why are you running? Because that's what we do. We just ran from the police officers. We didn't do anything wrong. And then sometimes when we did have interaction with police officers, it was like you were talked down to. I've never wanted to make a person feel like that I was better than them. And I always wanted them to feel like they were important and they had a voice. And I think sometimes our community forgets how strong their voice is. That's who I work for.
Within probably 8 months of Deputy Chief Givens being in her role, we saw the numbers change significantly. And for a while there, it was class after class, we were having the most women. And to the point it then became the majority, and then each class beat the last class. So it is, it's impressive.
She mentored a lot of officers on the department, encouraged people to be confident in their own strengths, and that's one of her skills too. I think she's confident because she's a smart and intelligent woman that knows how to get things done, and she tried to encourage that with other folks, me too.
Because if you don't think that you can do this, or someone doesn't have that little bit of belief in you, you'll stay in your lane. You'll do what you've always done. For law enforcement, for women, we are stepping out on faith.
We worked on a number of projects, and one of those were Know Your Rights, which she was instrumental in starting that program, I believe back in community policing, when she was the first African American female in community policing. And what that was designed to do was to share information about law enforcement, what they should and what they could do. And also she put together this form that had a district attorney and a judge, and we went around the community and churches and other neighborhoods to share that information. Now, everybody who knows her know that she's going to be in a uniform, but for those folks who are straddling the fence, she could shift from that uniform to civvies and civilian clothes, and individuals would really get a chance to see her in a different light.
Yeah, well, when you think that she's been around here since the 80s and in a predominantly male workspace, she has figured out how to survive. Not only survive, but thrive. And I know that she is highly respected by staff. People that work for her like to work for her. She holds people accountable. She's fair.
Plus, she's resilient, or she wouldn't have lasted decades on the police department and got promoted up through the ranks as she did.
She's absolutely a trailblazer, but I think first she identifies who trailblazers are before her.
Well, it feels great. It's an honor, but it doesn't feel good if I'm going to be the only one. So hopefully someone is seeing me and realizing if she can do that, I can too. Because this was something I did not foresee. There's no way you could have told me that I would be blessed as a deputy chief of the Wichita Police Department.
To present the 2021 Trailblazers Award to Deputy Chief Wanda Parker Givens is TCAM board member Moji Rawson.
Greetings, I'm Moji Rawson, Director of Growth Strategies and Community Impact at Ameritrust Credit Union, and I'm delighted to serve as a board member of the Kansas African American Museum. It is my honor to present the 2021 Trailblazer Award to a remarkable leader who throughout her professional career never lost her personal connection with the community. Congratulations to Deputy Chief Wanda Parker Givens and my sorority sister of Delta Sigma Theta sorority for your devotion to our community and always keeping public service in the forefront.
So I'd like to thank the Kansas African American Museum and the Board of Directors for this honor, as well as family and friends and professional colleagues. It is an honor to be recognized as a 2021 Trailblazer in our community.
We would like to thank Evergy, our honorary sponsor for the evening.
Respect. Benjamin Pap Singleton, a former slave from Tennessee, a carpenter and coffin maker by trade, garnered the respect of former slaves who were seeking a better life. In 1870, Singleton and a handful of men went to Kansas and returned a favorable report of homesteading possibilities. Kansas was soon referred to as the Promised Land, and this organized movement of thousands of black colonists, known as the Exodusters, made a new life in the free state of Kansas.
Thank you, Denise, for sharing more about the Exoduster movement, and thank you, Moji. Well, we continue to weave an important story surrounded by difficult circumstances and a determination to press onward. Let's hear about an amazing Trailblazer honoree. Dr. John Brooks Slaughter is a Topeka, Kansas native, and throughout his illustrious career has developed pathways for others to embrace STEM careers.
Take the time to love and honor your family. Take the time to greet and cherish good friends. Take the time to stop and smell the flowers. Buena suerte. Good luck. Fight on. I am John Brooks Slaughter. I'm a former resident. I grew up in Topeka, Kansas, and attended schools in Topeka before going to Kansas State University, where I studied electrical engineering. We did not have a lot of money at our home, and if I wanted something new, I usually had to make it myself. And I developed an interest in becoming an engineer. When I went to high school, I already knew from 8th grade that I wanted to be an engineer. But at that time, people who looked like me were not encouraged to go into a field like engineering or science. There were no African Americans in the city of Topeka who were engineers. So I did not have the role models and mentors, but I did have teachers who believed in me and were supportive. And I had developed enough confidence, I guess, is the best way to put it, that I did not let anything deter me from attempting to achieve my goal.
I met Dr. Slaughter in 2005. He was then CEO and president of the National Action Council for Minorities in Engineering, or NACME. Kansas State University has scholarships through NACME, and it was a very important visit as he's a distinguished alumnus. I would say that my favorite quote from his lecture was, "I was the first Black engineer I ever met." Dr. Slaughter, as part of the NACME organization, the National Action Council for Minorities in Engineering, has spoken to Congress about the importance for increasing the number of Black, Indigenous, and people of color as engineers. He was on great standing with Congress, being the 6th director of the National Science Foundation and the first Black director of the National Science Foundation.
So NSF, for those who don't know, it is a federal entity established in 1950 to promote basic research in science and later on actually engineering as well. NSF is one of those organizations which is always looking where should things go next. So to give you an example, and these are one of those examples where we don't realize, NSF was the first to invest in nanotechnology. So this allows us to create all kinds of new material which can compete with the best nature has to offer. And we can always link it back to NSF. NSF is the leading innovation driver, and there is no doubt about that, not just in the US, but throughout the world. Everyone looks at NSF as the gold standard, not just in its investments, but how it goes about identifying the next technology of the future. And what was fascinating to me was Dr. Slaughter is the one who actually established the engineering directorate at an NSF. And being an engineer myself, I couldn't think of a more momentous shift at NSF, because from science, it added engineering, which I believe actually now is probably the bigger portfolio at NSF. It's more engineering, computing, AI, manufacturing, all the other things that we see. Dr. Slaughter also introduced the piece of education and how do we promote people from underrepresented minorities into engineering and science, which was a missing piece until he became the NSF director.
Throughout my career, I have been interested in helping to provide pathways for students, particularly underrepresented minority students, to enter and succeed in the field of engineering. So that has been a lifelong desire of mine to increase the numbers of young people, particularly from minority backgrounds, to become successful in engineering. If you're going to be able to succeed in a field like science or engineering, you have to recognize that, first of all, it's going to require an awful lot of hard work. You have to be able to recognize that it is important not to let anything stand in the way of your goals and your dreams. Resilience is a critical component of being able to be successful in any discipline, and in particular in a scientific or technological field. And I have just always adopted the attitude that I'm not going to let anything keep me from accomplishing that goal.
It is now my pleasure to introduce board member Marlon Williams to present the 2021 Trailblazers Award to Dr. John Brooks Slaughter.
Greetings. I am Marlon Williams, Program Director with Spirit Aero Systems and proud graduate of Southern University HBCU with a degree in electrical engineering, and I'm excited to serve as a board member of the Kansas African American Museum. It is my honor to present the 2021 Trailblazer Award to an exceptional leader who has blazed a trail and inspired many generations, especially African Americans and people of color, through his groundbreaking work and contributions in engineering and education. Congratulations to Dr. John Brooks Slaughter for his work in STEM.
I want to thank Denise Sherman and the board of the Kansas African American Museum for this Trailblazer Award. I am honored and humbled to know that you have chosen to bestow this upon me. I appreciate it very, very much, and I wish again to thank you for having provided this award for me.
We would like to thank Capital Federal Bank, our print sponsor for the evening.
It's so inspiring to learn how science, technology, engineering, and math influences and shapes our daily lives. Thank you so much, Marlon, for presenting. Well, we continue to learn more about the African American influence in Kansas and how it helped shape our collective stories. Our 2021 Trailblazer in Law is a direct descendant of early African American exodusters. The Honorable Julie A. Robinson, U.S. District Judge for the District of Kansas, shares her story.
My name is Catherine Brattle. I'm a senior United States District Judge for the District of Kansas. I met Judge Robinson back in 1992. She was a gifted prosecutor. I didn't know her at the time, but I was extremely curious to meet this person who, by reputation, I had learned was so phenomenal.
My name is Brooke Godfrey. Judge Robinson is my mom. So I've known her my entire life, and I don't really think of her as a judge. I just think of her as my mother. I think a big thing, and when I think of her in terms of being a judge, and I know probably everyone has their perception of any judge, not just my mom, but just, any judge, is that, there's this hard demeanor to them, or they're tough, and there definitely is that level of compassion that she, I experienced as a child, but also that I think that she shows to those people that come before her in court. And I think that a big part of who she is putting her faith into work in her job. So, when she's speaking to people during sentencing, it's not just saying, it is what it is and that's that. She tries to encourage them and say, this doesn't have to be the end for you. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. She definitely tries to show compassion and love in some ways, that the whole sense of the love your neighbor, even to those people that are in front of her. And I think that that's a big part of, how she's tried to take her own faithful self and put it into her role.
Hi, I'm Amy Seymour, and I'm a career law clerk to Judge Robinson. I've been with her for 16 years. She's a very easy person to work with, as you can imagine. She is, I think, a natural leader, so she tends to bring, as a natural leader, the best qualities out in the people that she works with.
My name is Julie Robinson, and I am the Chief Judge of the United States District Court for the District of Kansas. United States District Courts are the federal trial-level courts. As Chief Judge, I'm not only a judge, but I'm also the CEO of our court. I'm really proud to be a fourth-generation Kansan. My great-grandfather and his mother and his grandmother and a number of extended family members were part of the Exoduster movement that came to Kansas from Kentucky, and many came from Tennessee as well, in the late 1860s as emancipated people. They came to Kansas because it was the free soil state and the closest free state west of Kentucky. So they all came here. My family settled in Hiawatha and have thrived in Kansas ever since. I remember my senior year of high school. I had enough high school credits that I didn't need to go all day, so I went half a day, and I told my parents I was going to work in the afternoons. Well, I never managed to find a job because I spent my afternoons watching the Watergate hearings, which I was fascinated with and which I guess confirmed to me that I wanted to be a lawyer. Right out of law school, I clerked for Benjamin Franklin. I worked for him for 2 years, and he continued to mentor me for the next 13 years. Until he passed away, and I actually was appointed to fill his seat. I interviewed with a senior partner of a law firm that I respected. He offered me a job as a secretary. It was 1983. I was discouraged, and I talked to my mentor, Judge Franklin, and he convinced me that, first of all, I shouldn't be discouraged, but second of all, I ought to think about the United States Attorney's Office, a place where I could get lots of trial experience and do very good work representing the people of the United States. And I pursued that, and I think with his help, I landed a position there.
She's had to do some very difficult things, but she does them with kindness and big heart, and she makes those decisions because she also is courageous. She knows where her duty lies. She knows what her obligation is to the third branch, but she knows that she can do hard things in a kind way.
What I'm engaged in now is working with an organization called Healing House, which is a residential recovery community of over 200 people here in Kansas City, people that have struggled with drugs and alcohol, that are gaining sobriety, have gained sobriety, and are becoming healthy, happy people, and helping them in every way possible. I'm on the board, but also just volunteering, talking to people, helping them just sort of reestablish themselves in the community. I think people often think when you talk about big issues like poverty or addiction or hunger, it can be dissuading because you think it's so big, how can I make a difference? The key is if you can make a difference, even a little bit of difference in one person's life, that's huge. Because every life has value. Every single person's life is worth improving. And so you have to get out of this thought about how much can I fix. It's more who can I help. And even if it's just one individual, that's huge.
She's looking at how to make things better, how to make the world better, how to make our profession better. What can we do differently next time, and how can she be an agent of positive change?
Well, I am really honored to be honored by the Kansas African American Museum. I'm honored, first of all, that we have an African American Museum in Kansas because there's so many important stories that have been told and that can be told about the experience of African Americans coming to Kansas. But there's also a responsibility that goes along with being called a trailblazer. And that responsibility is to reach back and pull up other people behind you. I had people that blazed a trail for me, and Judge Franklin, for example, and he reached back and pulled me along and encouraged me and advised me and guided me. And that's my responsibility as well to others.
Without a doubt, the vision of a brighter day held by Judge Robinson's ancestors have been fulfilled throughout her successful career. Now to present the 2021 Trailblazer Award is United States Magistrate Judge Gwen Berzer.
Greetings.
I'm Judge Gwen Berzer, former president of the Kansas African American Museum. It is my honor to present the 2021 Trailblazer Award to a fourth-generation Kansan and an exceptional leader who paved the way for many by becoming the first African American appointed to the federal district court bench in the state of Kansas. So, tonight, it is my distinguished honor to present the 2021 Trailblazer Award to my colleague, sister, and friend. Congratulations to the Honorable Julie A. Robinson.
Thank you so very much to the Kansas African American Museum for this award. I am very honored to receive it. And I thank the Kansas African American Museum for the work that you've done in memorializing the important history of African Americans in Kansas. I'm proud to be one of them. I thank all of my family. It's through their stories and my family history, I think, that I've gained the confidence to do the things that I've done in my career. I thank my many mentors, my husband Neil, my children Jordan, Brooke, all of my family, and all of my family at work too, because they're an important part of my life and have been with me on this journey. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Andy McFadden, and I'm proud to serve on the board of directors for the Kansas African American Museum. And more importantly, I'm a museum member. I serve and support because I believe in the mission and vision of this amazing cultural arts and historical museum. The African American story is the American story, so join me in supporting by going to tcammuseum.org and click on the Donate Now button. The Kansas African American Museum. We are culture.
We would like to thank Fidelity Bank as one of our heritage sponsors for the evening.
Resound. Kansas, known as the Promised Land, proved to be anything but. The Exodusters were met with territory that proved to have hard winters, barren soil, and discouragement. But by 1881, African American immigrants had established 12 agriculture colonies in Kansas: Nicodemus, Hodgman, Morton City, Dunlap, Kansas City Area Colony, Parsons, Wabunsee, Summit Township, Topeka Area Colony, Burlington, Little Coney, and the Daniel Votaw Colony.
Well, our broadcast journalism trailblazer honoree has a national platform that allows her to share the stories of others. Chanel Jones has a unique distinction of being the granddaughter of our very own 2000 trailblazer, Josephine Brown, who blazed the trail as the first African-American woman elected to the USD 259 Board of Education in 1971 and was an activist in education, leaving a legacy of achievements in our education system. Let's hear more about Chanel's journey.
You know, I was just having this conversation the other day. I would not trade my childhood and my upbringing in Kansas, and specifically Wichita, Kansas, for anything. I have lived in a lot of cities as a journalist and traveling throughout my career, and they've all been wonderful cities, but there is no place like home. And I think I underestimated, actually, living in all sorts of cities, big and small, how much talent we have in the city of Wichita. The arts, music, writing, intellect. I mean, you name it, we have it in Kansas. And most importantly, when I think about my family and the deep-rooted connection to the community, honestly, I could cry, but I won't let myself do the ugly cry. I am so thankful for the blessing of growing up in the family that I did. You guys know my family, Dr. Val Brown and my grandmother Jo Brown, my mother Sheila Kennard, and when my grandfather speaks, people listen. He speaks slowly and thoughtfully and eloquently. All of those things were sowing seeds in me that I didn't know. And you guys all know Jo Brown, my grandmother. You know, I grew up seeing her on the school board. I didn't know that she was trailblazing at the time, but I knew she was passionate and confident and smart, and I knew I wanted to be like her.
Okay, I'll start at the beginning since I'm the beginning. I'm Chanel's mom.
And I'm Chanel's grandmother, but she calls me Grandmama.
Mom will tell you the story. She had all of the headshots of 10, 12, and 3, the lead anchor people on her wall in her bedroom. From elementary, she visioned herself being an anchor person. She tells a story about drawing herself sitting on a desk with bubble hair and hoop earrings. You know, I mean, as far as her look.
I remember Chanel as being a very serious student,
one who wanted to succeed at everything on the first attempt. The way she carries herself, it's like she demands respect. She's personable, but she's bold.
Well, I was advised about Chanel by a wonderful woman who was my assistant principal, who was in charge of a program called Peer Leadership. And what peer leadership embodied was an answer to a question that I brought with me when I came here, and that was to ask the entire student body in a variety of ways. We came up with about 6 creative ways to do this. Who do you listen to? We don't listen to understand, which is what she as a 9th grader could do.
This past year, I had the opportunity to do a report that was very well received nationally on the Dockham sit-in, one of the first sit-ins in the country, if not the first, that happened in my hometown in Wichita, Kansas. And I did not know that, so many men and women in my village were part of that sit-in. It's just who they were at the time and who they are, and sacrificing of themselves for civil rights and for rights. And so now as an adult, I'm outside of Wichita and I'm in other cities. I strive to just be a fourth of what I saw my grandparents be. I think with blessings comes responsibility, and I think our family is blessed. And I've watched them take those blessings and help others, and wouldn't trade it for the world.
When she first got on the television, they were sending her here and sending her there, and she said, "Grandma, I can't stay in one place." I said, "Baby, bloom where you're planted."
So those are those positive links that she had, those positive connections that she made, that when you leave one city, because you've made such a good impression on those people, they want to bring you into their space.
That people can respect her for her contributions to the world and what impact she has on presenting the issues that we're faced with today.
So I'd heard that she was on Saturday mornings on the Today Show, but I'm in a men's group that meets on Saturday mornings, and so I never had the chance to watch her. My wife was diagnosed with cancer 3 years ago, and we were spending a lot of time at the Cancer Center of Kansas. In Channel 3, the Today Show is regularly on there, so when my wife's getting chemotherapy or whatever it is, I'm sitting beside her. All of a sudden, I look up, and there's Chanel.
And most importantly, what I love about my hometown and what I love about the state of Kansas is the sense of community that I continue to feel and that I always felt growing up. And again, living in all of these other places, I think we recognize, and I recognize, that Kansas is a special place.
This is an acrostic poem that I dedicated to Chanel because as I was reflecting back on her as a student, I wanted to write down in words how I felt. S, I saw her as being studious and scholarly. H is for hardworking. E, enthusiastic about academics. I, intelligent and industrious. N is for neat and noble. E, eager to learn. L, listener. Another L, leadership skills exhibited. And lastly, E, electric personality and exceptional.
It's a delight to introduce Dr. Kay Monk Morgan to present the 2021 Trailblazer Award to Chanel Jones.
Hello. I'm Dr. Kay Monk Morgan, Vice President of the Office of Strategic Engagement and Planning at Wichita State University, and it has been my pleasure to serve as a board member of the Kansas African American Museum. It is with pride that I present the 2021 Trailblazer Award to Chanel Jones for her exemplary work in broadcast journalism by shaping the narrative and sharing the authentic stories of African Americans from Kansas. Congratulations to Chanel Jones.
Thank you to the Kansas African American Museum for honoring me as a Trailblazer in this year's Tribute to Trailblazers program. I would also, of course, like to thank all of my family, my friends, our family friends, mentors, all of those who have paved the way before me. There's no question about it. Without your help and guidance, I would not be where I am today. Please believe it is such an honor, almost surreal for me, to be recognized in the field of journalism. It has been my dream since I was in 5th grade, and now here I am, and I hope to encourage others to continue pursuing their dreams and report meaningful stories. So God bless you, and thank you so much.
We would like to thank Spirit Aerosystems as one of our heritage sponsors for the evening.
The Journey Forward. Today, Kansas has a rich history of African Americans who made significant contributions nationally and globally. We celebrate the descendants of the early settlers who made their way from Tennessee, Kentucky, Mississippi, and other areas of the South to start a new life and build a foundation, blazing a trail of Kansas pride. The Journey Forward reminds us that we must continue to build on the early sacrifices of those who came before us while meeting the present-day challenges in order to have a brighter tomorrow. We honor those who made the journey to Kansas, and we celebrate our honorees today.
We would like to thank Ameritrust Credit Union as one of our heritage sponsors for the evening.
This hour has been remarkable to recognize the richness of the African American experience and the indelible influence of the 2021 Trailblazers through their achievements in broadcast journalism, law enforcement, STEM sciences, health services, and our judicial system is fulfilling the vision and mission of the Kansas African American Museum. The mission of the museum is to make the Kansas African American experience resonate with every Kansan. The vision of the Kansas African American Museum is to be the premier place where communities come to learn about or tell the Kansas African American story. We thank you so much for joining us.
We would like to thank all of our exhibition sponsors for the evening: Cargill, Golden Plains Credit Union, Folston Attorneys at Law, Bank of America, Credit Union of America, McCown Gordon Construction, Intrust Bank, Hills Pet Nutrition, Emprise Bank, WSU Tech, and the Docking Group Private Wealth Management.
Hey yo, I'm back from the last Pan-African. Triple blast, know the past and it's black again. Triple stacks with the fashion and blacker skin. See the black ass and I'm backing in. You ain't half the man, give me your black and tan. Didn't have all the class, but I'm passing them. They always said if you were black, you were half a man. Sound like Mace, but I didn't have a half a gram. I'm from the land of Monet and Laugh-A-Gram. Why you didn't think Kemet had the master plan? Coming out of Killer City, had to make me a committee, cause I didn't have a ditty. I bet